In this video, we're going to pick up by working on exercise 14.3, and let's read the description here. This one's called Display 3 Cards, just like what you see here. It says, write a program that displays 3 cards randomly from a deck of 52. The card image files are named 1, 2, etc. They're all PNG files, and they're stored in that one directory that you see there. All 3 cards are distinct, it says, and selected randomly. So in other words, you are going to need to pick one randomly. Once it's picked, you need to remove it from contention. And it does say here, hint, you can select the random cards by storing the numbers in an array list, perform a random shuffle, and it shows you where you can go in the book to find that, section 1112. And you use the first 3 numbers in the array list as the file names for the image. So you don't have to go through the process I just described just by simply sorting the whole 52 of them and picking the first 3 positions. Your problem is in essence solved. All right, let's go ahead and jump into Eclipse and then create this new project. We'll keep naming them the same way, exercise 14.3. And inside exercise 14.3, we're going to create a new class file. We'll name that exercise 14.3. Create our main method. Once again, we're going to do a little copy pasting here. We will need a good portion of these. Let's just copy the lot of them, and then we'll sort it out when we get there. We're certainly going to need the application. Geometry position, definitely. Because we're only putting in 3 cards, instead of doing a grid pane, we could do an H box. We'll need the stage. We'll need an image view. We're not going to be naming any images, so let's just omit that. Oh, we also need to throw in the tool that we're going to need to do the array list, and that's going to be just a regular Java utility. Then we'll just call it by name just to save a little memory space. I could just do an asterisk there. I think that's all we need. So let's go ahead and begin by extending the application. We'll do our override. Too many R's there. Create our start method. And now let's take care of that array list part. And basically what I'm doing is I'm saving you a little bit of a hassle. From searching around the book, I'm just going to give you the answer here. But know that you can go ahead and do that. There's also a library out there, and I believe it's Java Utility Collections, where they actually have a tool that automatically does the shuffle for you. I believe it's called Static Shuffle. You might want to research that, so don't quote me here. But I'm going to show you the method that they're pushing you to in the book. So we're creating an array list. It's an integer. We'll call it list, which is a new array list. Empty brackets, empty parens, and a semicolon. And then we're going to run a little bit of a loop here, and we're just going to do int. We'll start with 1 for counting, and then we'll say as long as I is less than or equal to 52, then we'll do an I++. Let's get our curlies in there. And then we're just going to do a list We're going to add to that list. And what are we going to add? Whatever is in position I. Really just as simple as that. So that will set up that structure for us. Now here is that library I was just talking about. So they're looking it up. I found the right one. So we're going to use collections dot shuffle. What are we shuffling? We're shuffling our list of cards. So you can see how that makes it a whole lot easier than trying to write something that does that for you. From there, since we're going to be working with an H box, let's go ahead and make the spot where we're going to put things. And I'm just going to call mine pane. You can call yours whatever. And it's going to be a new H box. And we are actually going to throw in a value here and display 3 cards randomly. I'm actually going to set it to 5, and one of the reasons for that is to give us a little bit of a buffer space. I might adjust that. I just want to be on the safe side. I'd rather have more room than less room. Really 3 should work. No, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we need to add a value for the array position. All right, let's just stick with 5 for right now, and then hopefully you'll see my rationale as we move. Let's position things. Now we're going to do a little bit of something different than we were doing in the previous examples, and here we're going to use the get children. Our parens can be empty, and that's going to be adding a new image view. Which is going to be the images that we want. So right now I'm just going to leave my cursor flashing right there. I'm going to go into my folder here where the images reside. And here are all the cards in this folder. I'm just going to grab the folder, just bring it right over to the project, drop it in. So I'm going to use this path then. I'm just going to say card / and then I'm going to need to address whatever position I'm in my list. So I'm just going to concatenate here list get position 0, and then concatenate .png. So if you can visualize what's happening here, we're pulling up that directory, getting the card position number, and then appending to it the file extension. And the reason for that, why we're just using a number, is because the files are named with numbers, so that makes sense. It also makes it really easy to coordinate between the array positions and the image positions. So you'll now need to create a couple more, obviously. And here we're going to get position 1, add it again, this time position 2. So that's going to be all our pane creations. Now we're going to set our scene and stage. For that, we can just go to one of our other projects and copy. Change that to the right name. And then we'll do our launch. And believe it or not, it's really just that simple. So let's save it. Oh, and it looks like it's throwing a couple of errors here. So let's see what it's not liking. Just going to hover. Oh, missing a paren at the end. Okay, and now we got another error here. Primary stage cannot be resolved. So let's see why that might be happening. Oh, I can see the error right now. Lowercase p, uppercase p. All right, so that looks okay. We got another little underline here. Let's see if we can fix that. Oh, since we're extending, we need to do an override. Except our override, of course, needs to happen. Oh, we have the override. Ah, typos. There we go. No underlines, no warnings. Let's go ahead and save. And let's hit play and see what happens. Yay, it worked. Now the thing I'm going to try is I'm actually going to change this value down to 3. And if I'm suspecting what I suspect, it might throw an error. Oh, still worked. Okay. So I was just being cautious there because I thought maybe the array position, we would need one additional spot just to make sure we didn't get any conflicts. But it worked out just fine with 3 or 5. And that's exercise 14.3. Now let's move on to the next one. Going back to the assignment listing here. So 14.7 is our next assignment. For this assignment, let's jump back over to the book and take a look at the description. So this one says display random 0 or 1. Write a program that displays a 10 by 10 square matrix as shown in 14.4.5a, which is this one here. Each element in the matrix is either a 0 or 1 randomly generated. Display each number centered in a text field. So we're going to have to use the text field library. And then set the text method to set value 0 or 1 as a string. Okay, let's get started building it. We won't need any images for this particular project. So let's go ahead and do a new project. We'll add a new class. And there's our beginning. Lazy typing. We'll just grab all this stuff and then weed through it. We certainly won't need an array list this time. Need the application. We will be positioning stuff inside a grid pane. The scene we'll need. Won't need an H box. We will need the stage. We're not working with any images here, so that can go away. The ones that we do need to add, though, so let's add our layout, our grid pane. So that one's Java FX, and that's a scene layout grid pane. Anything else? Oh, of course, we're going to need the text field, so that's part of the control library. So we're introducing a control to our project, and that's going to be a scene control text field. We are going to extend application. We'll do override. We'll create a start method. Alright, so one thing I'm going to try to figure out here is a little bit of layout before I begin. I'm going to go back and take a look at this. So 10 by 10 square matrix, and it's going to need to have ample size to make everything fit. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of size declaration for our scene, or for the pane that's going to hold the scene. And we're just going to experiment with some numbers. I have a pretty good idea of where it should be. Just looking at this graphic here, I can make at least an educated guess based upon the size of the title bar and stuff. Okay, let's go back to Eclipse. So I'm actually going to just preset a couple of values here. Let's set it to 200. It's probably a good value. Alright, and we're going to use that later. We're going to create a grid pane to store everything, or to display everything. And now we're going to use an approach that was similar to the one that we used to do the tic-tac-toe. So actually we can come back here and actually copy these loops to save a little bit of typing and then adjust them. And we'll do that right here. So we have our grid pane created. Now this time, instead of doing 3 rows, 3 columns, we're going to do 10 rows, 10 columns. We're going to change these 3's to 10's. And then we're also going to get rid of all the stuff inside of here. We are going to do some randomizing. I'm going to push that off to the side and get rid of these if statements because they're not going to apply to what we're doing. But we need to do a little bit of consideration here. Well, we're going to need a text field to put the values in. So let's actually start with that. So let's create a text field. I don't know, let's just call it TF equals new text field. And then we need to pass in a parameter indicating whether or not this is going to be in certain values. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to generate a numeric value with the random generator. This is where we're going to use it now, to get the value 0 or 1. Now in order to make that happen, I'm actually going to move this whole statement here inside the parens of text field, so it'll do that work right inside there. And instead of multiplying by 3, we're actually going to multiply by 0.5. And I always like to put a 0 in front of them. And then we're going to concatenate to it an empty string. And I think that should do it. So we can get rid of this next little snippet of text. Now what we are going to need to do is we are going to need to set some sort of a variable to help keep track of the column. And I'm just trying to think here what would be a good way to do that. Now, one thing that they did tell us, so I'm just going to go ahead and do this since it's in my head right now, is they want us to align that text in the center. So we can actually do the text field, set alignment, position, center. And we are going to also need to add a pane. So let's actually do that. So what I'm doing right now, my methodology is take care of the stuff that's simple. And then just like we did in the other application, we are going to put the panes in position J, which is going to be our row, and then position column and then row, so we can step through that whole structure. Now the thing that I'm wrestling with in my head, and I know I need to add something here. I'm just trying to think of what the good rationale is, or what the logical approach is. So each element in the matrix is 0 or 1, randomly generated. Display each number centered in a text field, and then use the text field setText method to set value 0 or 1 as a string. Now, as I'm reading that, I'm not sure that that's necessarily the best approach here. Actually, what I'm going to do at this point is I think I might have enough to actually make this work. So I'm going to actually leave the main part of the code alone. I'm going to come back and grab this stuff like I usually do. And that's going to come after our for loop. So I got to move it up one set of curly brackets here. Do that. Now with the pane in this situation, we are actually going to add the width and the height here. Now I suppose I could have just hard-coded them here rather than using the approach I did, but well, that's done now, so we're just going to roll with it. And then we're going to add here our launch, args, and then we'll cross our fingers and see if it works. But it is throwing an error here. I'm going to see if I can figure out why. Oh, okay, I see the problem. I need to make a new one. There it goes. And that needs to be grid pane. And we still have an error here. It says delete this token. I guess we'll trust that. Let's go ahead and save it. And I see an underline here. Oh, I didn't use it, so let's delete it. Saving. Cross your fingers and see if it works. Okay. That is not what I was expecting. Not at all. And it doesn't seem to be actually getting the random value correctly. So we're going to probably have to do a little bit of tweaking here. And I'm thinking of a method that exists that might help us. I'm actually going to set this thing here, the pref column count. It says this is used for calculating the text field's preferred width. So I'm actually going to set that preferred width to 1. And if I remember the syntax right, that what happens with this little method, provided I typed it correctly, is it ensures that things are going to fit. Now I'm also kind of wrestling in the back of my mind if these are adequate, and I didn't do a column count when I ran it. So let's save that and see if this helps us with the one fix, and we'll then think about adjusting the size of the whole window. I thought it was pretty close. Alright, so it doesn't seem like it's an adequate amount of space. It seems like we're going to have to add some pixels. So let's make it, I don't know, 240. And then run it again. Okay, so we'll have to fiddle with that a little bit, but I'm concerned now that it doesn't seem like our random number generator is working correctly. So I'm just wondering if I have an error in my syntax somewhere. Maybe am I potentially missing a library? So I'm just kind of doing a little bit of troubleshooting here, because that certainly isn't working. Maybe what we can try, let's actually switch this to 1 and see if that is a fix. Okay, and that doesn't seem to be working either. Okay, I was just taking a look at my math random, and I'm being kind of silly here. Instead of multiplying, actually here, what I think I need to do is I need to add the 0.5, so it's going to generate basically either a 0 or a 1, and then by adding that, it's going to force it to one value or the other. I don't know if you've learned that technique or not, but let's see if it works. I'm going to save it. Run it. Okay, there we go. All right, so that was pretty good. You might want to go in here and maybe tweak these a little bit until you get just the right numbers. And that's closer. So if you even got it this far, I'd be happy with that. All right, so let's stop this one now, and let's move on to the next exercise. And the next exercise is 14.8, and that'll bring us to the wrap-up point here. All right, so it says expand exercise 14.3 to display all 54 cards, including 2 jokers, 9 per row. Jokers are number 53 and 54. So I think that's a little bit of a tip that we can take, a bit of a clue from the other application that we did. So not a bad idea to go back and look at that code. All right, I'm going to jump back over to Eclipse here and take a look. Oh, I notice I got a bunch of instances here running. Let me go ahead and close those. And let's find the thing that we did with the cards. That's tic-tac-toe. And and as I'm looking at this now, I don't think I even need it. I think that we can do something much simpler. So let's just go ahead and make the new project, and I'll show you what I have in mind here. And then once again, a new class file. Use the same name. And then since one of these already has the card listing here, I'm just going to grab all of that, bring it into this project. Of course, that is breaking that, so I suppose I could probably have copied it. So now it's still in both. Let's grab some of the libraries we're going to need. I think that this is actually going to be a fairly simple one. And I think I can probably grab this set of import statements from our first one. Absolutely need application, scene, stage. We'll use a grid pane to display them. Now keep in mind that we're going to have 54 cards to display, so it's 52 plus the jokers. I'm not worried about positioning, although it wouldn't hurt to leave it there. Need the image view, and that really should be it. So let's do our extends application. Let's do our override. let's create a start method. Put in our primary stage. We are going to need a grid pane, so let's do that right off the bat. Pane is fine. New grid pane. Alright. We know that at some point we're going to do all that showing stuff, so we can just grab that right away too. Let's get it out of the way. It's going to be at the bottom here somewhere. We're not going to worry about width and height, or actually maybe we will, but maybe this time we'll hard code it, and I'm just going to create a shape that I know is going to be adequately big to fit everything. Maybe 800 pixels by 800 pixels, and we'll see how that falls into line. Now really all we have to do here is step all the way through the deck, and then maybe place the cards in like rows and columns, I'm thinking. So 54, I'm trying to think of like an even number here to work with. It's not seeming to find my calculator. That's kind of odd. So 54, what numbers evenly divide 54? Okay, so we could do 6 rows. So, and I'm just trying to think of like what might be a reasonable number. So if I divide 54 by 6, 9. So a 6 by 9 shape would actually work pretty good. So let's do our double loop thing again. So we'll just copy those 4 loops. So once again, the rationale here is to step through rows and columns. I'm going to get rid of all the stuff in the inner loop. So if we know we're going to go 6 rows and 6 columns, or 9 columns, we're going to do 6, or that would be 6 columns, 6 rows and 9 columns. That's what that's going to be. And then for each time we step through there, this one's actually a very easy assignment, if you haven't noticed already. We're just going to add a pane, and hopefully you're getting comfortable with this extended syntax now. We're just going to do an image view. We are going to pull up images from card, and just the same thing that we did before. At this point, we're just going to do a little concatenation, and what are we going to concatenate? We're going to take the position, so here's what's going through my mind right now. We are going to have to take whatever the column position is, or excuse me, the row position is, multiply that times the number of rows, okay, so that every time we go through, it's going to, so the first time it's going to go through, it's going to be 6, and then it's going to be 12. All right, I'm just like logicking through this in my head. And then we're also going to have to do the J column plus 1. All right, if this is not making any sense to you, fret not. I'll see if I can explain it. There is a method to my madness here. And then once again, I'm going to concatenate the file name. So really what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to generate the number that's going to be necessary to grab each card. So in other words, to count up through each card and then place it in each column and row. So see if I can logic through this for you. So the first time through, I is going to be 0. So 0 times 6 is 0 plus j. J is going to be 0 plus 1. So it's going to be the first value that's going to be generated is 1. Next time through, I is still going to be 0, so this part's going to drop out. J is going to be 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So it seems kind of like an odd approach, but this is the right math to make it work. I've messed with it a little bit to just ensure that. And I think this is, once again, enough code to actually make this work. Looks like we're not using our text field here, so let's just get rid of that. Save it. No underlines or errors. Let's throw in our launch. Our args. Once again, let's save it and cross your fingers. Hey, not too bad. Boy, I could see that we could probably put in a little spacing here, but hey, it worked. We got all the cards in order. Okay, so counted up through the images. Oh, the one thing that I'm not seeing, though, is the jokers, unless there's a problem with them, and I don't know, maybe they're just not present, or maybe there's a problem with my math. Oh, it seems like they're there. Well, you know, if you want to try to figure that one out, fine. If for some reason you don't, and you just do exactly what I did, I'd be okay with it. So let's just call this working and wrap it. If you can figure out how to get the jokers in there too, maybe check my math and make sure it's right. I might be missing something here. But this, you know, for my intents and purposes, this is actually enough here. So let's go ahead and wrap this, and that's completion of the first assignment in Unit 1. And hopefully shortly I'll get the next assignment out there for you in videos as well, so you can follow along. All right, see you in the next video.